Do you find yourself reaching for your wallet whenever you're feeling down, only to regret it later? You're not alone, and that cycle can be tough to break. Emotional spending is a common pitfall that many of us fall into, but the good news is that it's possible to break free from these habits. In this video, I'm going to share 7 effective strategies to help you do just that. By the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of your emotional spending triggers and the tools to overcome them. Emotional spending is often driven by our emotional states, whether it's stress, anxiety, or even boredom. When we're feeling overwhelmed, it's easy to turn to retail therapy as a quick fix. But let's be real, that temporary high is followed by a whole lot of guilt and regret. The first step to breaking free from emotional spending is to recognize our emotional triggers. What are the emotions that drive you to spend? Is it when you're feeling stressed at work, or when you're bored on a Sunday afternoon? Take some time to reflect on your spending habits and identify the emotions that lead you to reach for your wallet. Recognizing our emotional triggers is just the beginning. Once we're aware of our triggers, we can start to make more intentional financial decisions. We can ask ourselves if we really need that new pair of shoes, or if we're just trying to distract ourselves from our emotions. Awareness is a powerful tool, and it's the first step to breaking free from emotional spending. By recognizing our triggers, we can start to make more conscious choices about our spending habits. So, the next time you feel the urge to spend, take a step back and ask yourself what's driving that urge. Is it a desire to treat yourself, or is it to distract yourself from your emotions? Be honest with yourself, and take the time to reflect on your motivations. This simple act of awareness can be a game changer in breaking free from emotional spending. Our emotional states play a huge role in our spending habits, but another key factor is our values. When we create a budget that aligns with our personal values, we're more likely to make intentional financial decisions. We're less likely to make impulse buys, and more likely to prioritize what's truly important to us. But what does this look like in practice? It means taking the time to reflect on what matters most to you, whether it's travel, education, or simply having a safety net. When we create a budget that reflects our values, we're more likely to feel a sense of purpose and direction. We're no longer mindlessly spending on things that don't bring us joy or fulfillment. Instead, we're making intentional decisions that align with our goals and values. This approach to budgeting may take some time and effort up front, but the payoff is well worth it. By prioritizing what matters most to us, we can break free from emotional spending and start building a more fulfilling financial future. Mindfulness is another powerful tool in breaking free from emotional spending. When we're more mindful of our emotions and thoughts, we're better equipped to make intentional financial decisions. We're less likely to act on impulse, and more likely to take the time to reflect on our motivations. Mindfulness isn't about being perfect, it's about being present in the moment. It's about recognizing when we're feeling stressed or anxious, and taking a step back to reflect on our emotions. When we practice mindfulness, we're more aware of our emotional states and better equipped to manage them. We're less likely to turn to retail therapy as a quick fix, and more likely to find healthier ways to cope with our emotions. Whether it's through meditation, deep breathing, or simply taking a walk outside, mindfulness can be a powerful tool in breaking free from emotional spending. Another effective strategy in breaking free from emotional spending is to introduce a cooling-off period before making a purchase. This can be as simple as waiting 24 hours before buying something, or taking a few days to think about whether we really need it. This approach may seem simple, but it can be incredibly effective. By introducing a delay between the impulse to buy and the actual purchase, we're giving ourselves space to reflect on our motivations. When we introduce a cooling-off period, we're more likely to make intentional financial decisions, rather than acting on impulse. We're giving ourselves time to reflect on whether we really need that new gadget, or if we're just trying to distract ourselves from our emotions. This approach requires discipline and patience, but the payoff is well worth it. By introducing a cooling-off period, we can break free from emotional spending and start making more intentional financial decisions. Finding alternative coping mechanisms for our emotions is another key strategy in breaking free from emotional spending. Whether it's exercise, hobbies, or simply talking to a friend, finding healthier ways to cope with our emotions can be a game changer. When we're feeling stressed or anxious, we're less likely to turn to retail therapy as a quick fix. Instead, we're more likely to find healthier ways to manage our emotions. By finding alternative coping mechanisms, we're breaking the cycle of emotional spending. We're no longer turning to shopping as a way to distract ourselves from our emotions, and instead, we're finding healthier ways to cope. This approach may take some time and effort up front, but the payoff is well worth it. By finding alternative coping mechanisms, we can break free from emotional spending and start building a more fulfilling financial future. Having accountability can also be a powerful tool in breaking free from emotional spending. Whether it's a friend, family member, or financial coach, having someone to hold us accountable can make a big difference. When we're accountable to someone else, we're more likely to follow through on our goals and make intentional financial decisions. Having accountability can also provide an added layer of motivation. When we're working towards our goals with someone else, we're more likely to stay on track and make progress. Whether it's through regular check-ins or simply having someone to report to, accountability can be a powerful tool in breaking free from emotional spending. Tracking our spending habits is another effective strategy in breaking free from emotional spending. By keeping track of where our money is going, we're more likely to identify patterns and make intentional financial decisions. We're less likely to make impulse buys, and more likely to prioritize what's truly important to us. When we track our spending habits, we're also more likely to identify areas where we can improve. We're more likely to spot patterns of emotional spending and make changes to break free from those habits. This approach requires discipline and patience, but the payoff is well worth it. By tracking our spending habits, we can break free from emotional spending and start building a more fulfilling financial future. In summary, breaking free from emotional spending habits requires self-awareness, practice, and patience. By recognizing our emotional triggers, creating a budget that aligns with our values, practicing mindfulness, introducing a cooling-off period, finding alternative coping mechanisms, having accountability, and tracking our spending habits, we can break free from these habits and start building a more fulfilling financial future. Remember, breaking free from emotional spending is a journey, not a destination. It takes time and effort, but the payoff is well worth it. If you're struggling with emotional spending, know that you're not alone. Take the first step today by recognizing your emotional triggers and making a plan to break free from those habits. And if you're ready to dive deeper into budgeting techniques, be sure to check out our next video on creating a budget that works for you. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to share your experiences in the comments below.